Uh, Hello and welcome all of you to this transplant webinar. I'd like to introduce Dr. Girish. Dr. Girish Namagundlu is a specialist in nephrology as well as transplant medicine. He's done his graduation from KIMS in Bangalore and then went off to the UK. He did his medicine as well as nephrology in the UK from the Royal London Hospital. He's done his specialist training in nephrology there as well as European diploma in transplant medicine. He's back to Bangalore in 2013 and then joined Apollo Hospital first and then Columbia Asia, and he's been with Columbia Asia now for some time, doing wonderful work there. Without much ado, the topic is a swap transplant. I think kidney paired donation would be the in term these days. Without much ado, I'll hand over to Girish to give his talk. Over to you, Girish.
Thank you. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes.
So I'll start sharing my screen. So first of all, thank you MCure for arranging this conclave and inviting me to talk on swap transplants. And thank you all senior colleagues and my co-nephrologists for joining for the talk. So without further delays, I will just start off my first slide. So the objective of this talk is basically twofolds. The first is to understand how valuable tool swap transplant or recently called as KPT program is to expand donor pool. The second is how can we implement this in the real life to expand the donor pool. So to achieve those two objectives, I have divided my talk into the following subsections: history, introduction, followed by I'll be talking on scenario in the international arena. I'll talk a little bit about the Indian scenario, followed by the regional scenario. And then in the last few slides, I'll be talking where we are now and how we will be looking forward to proceeding with the swap transplants in future. So the first question is, why do we need this paired donation? As we all are aware that there's been a gross supply-demand mismatch when it comes to organ transplantation. So this is an urgent need of the hour and a priority that needs to be addressed ASAP. And we all know that in general population, about 35% are ABO incompatible. And about 30% of our recipients are sensitized or allosensitized, resulting from previous transplants, pregnancies, or transfusions. And we know that for such patients, antigen match matters a lot. I'll just point out towards how, just 1 minute, sorry. Yeah, how 6 antigen match is going to give you significantly long half-life for the graft, and a 0-1 mismatch can give you a significantly lower long-term survival. And also in a country like India, it's going to be very cost-effective compared to the expensive immunosuppression and desensitization regimes that are available. So looking at the historical slide, so the first KPD was suggested by Rappaport in the late 1980s, but it was the Koreans who performed the first exchange in the early 1990s. And by the mid 1990s, they already had started performing 3-way and 4-way exchanges. Subsequently, the West joined. Subsequently, the West joined. It's worth noting that United States performed their first exchange only in 2000. However, they took off very significantly in the mid 2000 when they start with the help of programs such as Alliance for Paired Kidney Donation, about which I'll be talking in a little bit more detail because that is relevant to our current scenario. And following this, they have now started performing need chain transplants, which are yielding transplants up to 50, 60 in numbers at a stretch. So the paired kidney transplants can be divided into number of these types which are mentioned in this slide. I will be talking a little bit in detail about the relevant swap exchanges that are available. So the first is two-way exchange. We all know about it. I won't spend much time about this. So three-way exchange is where you have three couples who are incompatible, and so donor 1 donates to recipient 2, and donor 2 donates to recipient 3, and donor 3 donates to recipient 1. So this is a three-way exchange, and this goes on to become a four-way exchange, etc. So the next type of swap transplant available is compatible pairs. When you know a donor 1 is compatible with recipient 2, but the recipient 2 is hard to match with donor 1. Hence, donor 1 donates to recipient 2 and donor 2 donates to recipient 1. So this is a HLA incompatible transplant. Sorry, that's a blood group incompatible transplant. So O to A, O can donate directly to A, and A can't donate to O, so O donates to O and A donates to A. So the next is a list exchange, where you see a donor basically contributing to the deceased donor waiting list, as a result of which his recipient gets a wait list priority. So more popular nowadays is the domino paired donation, where typically an altruistic donor donates to recipient 1 and donor 1 donates to a wait list candidate, and the chain continues into a non-simultaneous extended altruistic donation, potentially if there are lots of incompatible pairs that are available. So NEED stands for non-simultaneous extended altruistic donation. So the altruistic donor donates to recipient 1, and then the donor 1 donates to recipient 2, and from there on, they continue with the help of bridge donors. One important aspect of this NEED change is when a donor backs up or when there is donor reneging, this doesn't really break the chain or affect the series of transplants. That's one major advantage. But is this possible in real life? I think United States have got a number of programs where they have successfully carried out these NEED chains, and they have done transplants up to 30, 40 and more in numbers. But remember, these are all non-simultaneous. The transplant surgeries don't occur simultaneously. So how is it possible to do such numbers with such great coordination and success? So there are a number of softwares that are available and registries that are available in the United States, which carry out these NEED chains. So one such software is Alliance for Paired Kidney Donation, about which I'll be talking about a little bit in detail now. So the key players for this software are Professor Roth, who is a Nobel Prize winner in economics, and he was the key person behind developing this prize-winning algorithm that is the basis of APKD software. And Professor Rees is a pioneer in paired transplants and NEED chains. I was fortunate to meet him in 2013 and have been in touch with him since then. He's based in Toledo Medical Center, and he's founder and CEO of this software. And Atul Agnihotri is a kidney transplant recipient, extremely nice and a philanthropic person. And I had the sort of opportunity to meet him recently over a video call. So these three players have been instrumental in forming this Alliance for Paired Kidney Donation, which is an international non-profit organization based in Toledo, Ohio. And the mission of this organization is to do as many live donor transplants as possible across the country and help out internationally. So, and this software helps in scoring and matching for the swab transplants. And APKD algorithm can unlock an additional 20 to 30 transplants. And it has been almost used by 15 countries across 4 continents. In fact, one of my good colleagues and friends, Dr. Anwar, who is based in the Middle East, has also started using this. So now let's focus on the Indian scenario. Where are we with regards to the swab transplants? Apex Kidney Care, based in Mumbai, which is an NGO based in Mumbai, carried out the first domino chain of transplants in 2008. And it was basically a chain of 5 kidney transplants. It started off in 2008, it materialized in 2013. There were 40 doctors, 10 OT and 3 hospitals involved, and it was a mammoth and a wonderful effort by the organization. Following which, number of units have attempted swab transplants, domino paired donations. The most successful being the IKDRC in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, led by Dr. Vivek Kute. He has done about 300 swab transplants during this 16-year period with a very good graft survival at 3 years and very good long-term outcomes. So he has done both 2-way and 3-way swab transplants. And it's worth noting that he has used the APKD software and has managed to perform 51 transplants in 2019, including the longest paired kidney transplant chain in Asia with about 10 donors and 10 recipients over just 5 days. So the Indian Society of Organ Transplantation have come up with this wonderful guidelines, which has been published in 2017. I urge all of you to go through these documents. There are a number of eminent nephrologists involved behind this document. Of note are Dr. Kute and Professor Michael Rees. So talking about the entire guideline is out of scope for this presentation. 2 important aspects I would like to touch upon is the emphasis that they have laid that computer allocation should be used over manual allocation to facilitate KPD program is the point number 1. Point number 2 is that there should be an attempt to form a national paired kidney donation registry, which is pivotal in improving the quality of matching and the number of KPDs. So coming to the regional scenario in Karnataka, the first swab transplant was performed in October 2010 by Dr. Sanjay in Suguna Hospital. Since then, many centers have followed. I'm afraid it doesn't cover all the centers, but some of high volume transplant centers, this is the number of swab transplants they have performed. Suguna performed 6, BGS 3, NH4. So it's all single digits basically over a number of years. You can see these are all single centered programs. So in August 2018, we were able to do the first inter-hospital swab transplant between Suguna Hospital and our hospital, Columbia Hospital at Hebbal. In fact, it took us almost 9 months of planning, workup, and to get the permission. The key thing we did was first to introduce the donor recipient couples and have several conversations, several counseling sessions with them to plan out the process, because the most important thing here was we were involving 2 corporates. If you see the previous Dr. Kute's IKDRC swab transplants, it's all single-centered, funded by the government. But here we had a unique challenge of two different corporate setups trying to come together to make this transplant happen. So the second thing we did was to go and meet the chairperson of the state authorization committee in person and try and discuss this with him to see if this is possible for us to go ahead and what were the barriers we would face and whether they would be helping us to whether they would help us to carry on and counter the barriers. So Dr. Bhanumurthy was very helpful in terms of giving a green signal to us. And the third thing we did was we ensured that it was all simultaneous. We had a number of video calls between the two centers and coordination, number of people coordinating. And one key thing we did was we transported the kidney via a green corridor. We took a prior permission to create a green corridor of about half an hour between the two hospitals. And the jury is out on whether to transport the kidney or transport the donor. But there are pros and cons of each. And we felt that it was more viable for us to transport the kidney. So both couples at present are doing well with good and normal renal function and leading normal life. So what were the challenges we faced? It was ethical, moral, legal, financial, all types of challenges. And the ethical and moral challenges, the way we would deal with it is to keep transparency, have repeated counseling sessions, and make sure that the kidney quality that we were going to exchange is of the sort of same quality. And the legal challenges was to ensure that the state authorization committee is aware of it from the beginning, because we didn't want a 6 months workup and then the state committee say, no, why didn't you not go for this or that? Which can be quite distressing for all of us. And then financial, I say financial because two corporate setups are involved in this. So the transplant packages, the costings, the surgical fee, etc., are all different. And the other educational, religious factors, we had to deal with it with a lot of counselings and education, educating the patients. So there are some myths and misconceptions. Again, that had to be cleared with a lot of counseling sessions. So what future holds for us? We've been very fortunate to have TTK on board. Basically, my first attempt to get Professor Rees to talk and associate with an NGO here and give us a software was a failure about 3 years ago. Nevertheless, through TTK, it has been possible. We have, and thanks to Dr. Ankit Mathur and Dr. Sanjay, who through Dr. Kutte has managed to get APKD software into TTK. And Dr. Ankit is willing to help us out with not only the lab work or the immunological work, but also would help in administration, such as performing matching runs. The logistics of data entry from individual centers have to be sorted out. We have to create more and more awareness, not only among the patients, but also among the doctors and our co-nephrologists. And this would probably be a good platform to form a registry for swab transplants. There is always a debate of whether it should be an inter or intra-hospital networking, like for example, between Columbatia or Apollo, or only patients running, having a matching run of only Apollo hospitals throughout India. All this is a matter of debate, and this needs to be dashed out. But I would like to emphasize that it has to be probably inter-hospital networking if we are looking at really expanding the pool. So last two slides about APKD software. It's a very user-friendly software, and it's been given free of cost to TTK. It does involve some, I think, nominal maintenance costs in terms of this staffing and the manpower resources that are required. So the advantage of this software is you can determine what type of a match you want. Let's say you don't want a donor above 60, you can define that in the software. If you don't want a DR mismatch, you can define that in the software. So the number of advantages, and this itself will take a few sessions to understand the software. So to conclude, swap transplant is basically cost-effective means. In a country like India, it makes more sense to try to do such transplants and expand the donor pool. The long-term outcomes are certainly excellent, and there are lesser adverse events in comparison to the desensitization regimes that are available. In private sectors, the barriers are many. However, we need to sit out and dash all these barriers. We need a more collaborative approach to move forward. And certainly, as suggested by ISOT, computerized allocation and formation of a swap registry, probably to start with at the state level, would be the way forward. Thank you, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Girish, for that excellent talk on kidney pair donations. I have a question if nobody else. I'm just waiting for Dr. Sundar to come through. I have a question about this, quasi-compatible pairs and compatible pairs. Obviously, in the US and other countries, they are now looking at age-matched transplantation, even if there is no mismatch in blood groups, even if there is no mismatch in, let us say, even if there's no, panel reactive antibodies and such. They're looking at age compatibility and to some extent kidney size and sex compatibility and so on. What do you have to say for that as far as the Indian scenario is concerned?
I think, we are too far to go to that detailed level of matching yet, because we hardly have a few pairs in hand to make an entry. We have to start with the more liberal criteria is what my suggestion would be, because in Europe we always look for age matched kidneys and so on, but that's because we have a bigger pool, whereas in India the pool is probably big, but it's not a pool. It's sort of scattered everywhere, which is where I think first to get the pool is most important. We have to have a certain amount of agreed and liberal criteria so that at least few transplants can materialize, and then we can slowly tighten the screws.
Dr. Girish, given that we have a close-knit group in the Nephrology Association of Karnataka, what is stopping us from doing these swap transplants?
I think it is because we are all in private sector. Majority of us, 90% of the healthcare is private. I think that is where the anxiety and the uncertainty comes. Let's say if I want to, swap a patient from my hospital to another corporate hospital, I think the logistics, the barriers, the time, all this, it's quite tedious. It's not going to be like an ABO incompatible, which can happen in probably 6 weeks or 8 weeks. It's going to take 6 months, 9 months. I think the fear of that is probably keeping us, keeping us at check, and we're not moving forward. Maybe if you involve an NGO such as TTK, maybe we will have that element of anxiety down. It's very similar to a cadaveric program, because probably 25 years ago, if somebody said cadaveric program could be done with matching and all this, people would have laughed. It's probably the same way. If I tell that swap registry can be formed and APKD, it might sound a little bit strange, but going ahead, maybe that's the way forward.
Would you say, comparing the literature of ABO incompatible transplants with swap kidneys, that the swap kidneys have a higher half-life, better survival?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. But yes, I think it should. If you are able to match your kidney to that detail, it should definitely have a longer half-life in comparison to ABO incompatible transplants.
I think the cost also comes down. No? With a swap, the cost is much lower compared to ABO incompatible. I think that is very important in India. And as Girish was saying, we may have the number of transplants, but the coordination is not easy, because each hospital has got its own protocol, including the package. It's not easy that way.
The other problem what we have faced is now we are trying to have an intra-hospital swap between Anil and my center. See, we have given it to the committee, state committee, and you will not believe they are asking me, why didn't you consider the other members of the family? Because they don't want us to go for a swap if the option for a direct transplant is there. That is always there, but they are delaying it because they want us to give it in writing. Why other members of the family were not considered? But if you look at it, it should not be asked in the sense that it is a legal transplant, it's a related transplant. So what I'm saying is there are hurdles even from the level of getting the clearance from the committees.
So it's obvious that people need to be educated on this and then move forward. If there are no further questions, I think we'll bring this session to a halt. I will congratulate Dr. Girish on his excellent talk and move this back to the organizers so that they can plan the next session. Back to the organizers.
Thank you, Girish sir. Thank you, Dr. Arvind, Dr. Sanjay, and Shankar sir for your valuable feedback.